Let's try this one. Oh goodness, can you hear me? This is going to be the worst audio quality I think ever. But at least I'm seeing audio, so hopefully you guys are hearing audio. All right, sorry so much about that. I'm in the country residence and trying to do something a little bit different with the microphone, and it backfired on me supremely. So now I'm down to this. I'll have it fixed by tomorrow, but bear with me. Hopefully it's not too rotten. This is the Gygax challenge, week 3. Let's go through. Let's go through a little bit of. I gotta fix. Look at that. I'm also like all kinds of. Week 3. Let's go. Let's catch up on where we were. Remind ourselves, which I failed to do last time until halfway through, and then I finally was like, oh yeah, we should probably go through what we went into. So week 1 in the concept. All good. All right. Thanks, Keith Hershey. Keith Hershey, and thanks for or Keith Hershey Jr. I should say. Hey, Evan Stout, Daniel Lambert. We are here. Tunka Todd, Andy Duvall. Awesome. Oh, it's good to get a whole bunch of folks in here. So okay. So week 1, we'll just go through rapid fire what we did in the first couple weeks. We went over the concept. We decided it was an early medieval style world, no plate armor, no established codes of chivalry or feudalism. We established that the world is recovering from the fall of the great Lizardman Empire and the death of their god king. The Lizardmen gods are dragons, and they are active in the lives of mortals. However, for reasons unknown, they cannot see or manifest through stone. And there's been some discussion of some people just like stone in general. I kind of like more the sort of virgin rock. Maybe there's something interesting there, but we haven't figured that part out necessarily. And we don't have to all at once, but that there's some interesting ideas in terms of what is it about stone or what types of stone that the dragon gods have trouble with. In terms of folks that are around, the most numerous species were various lizard folk, your general kind of lizard people, troglodytes, basilisks, potentially bullywugs. I think bullywugs are actually based on amphibians, so we might have to do some work on that. And then humans. We also posited there might be some elves or dwarves, and I think we had some ideas on could they be extraplanar in nature? Maybe they were dragged in by lizard folk sorcerers, but I also kind of like the idea that maybe they're different versions of humans that developed depending on how people essentially different pockets of people adapted to the lizard folk dominion. Maybe they maybe over time some of them became elf-like and some of them became dwarf-like. And here's some cold coffee for the working man. And then that the kind of the pitch of what you're doing in the campaign is it's going to be dark, it's going to be gritty, you're going to be scrabbling to fill in this vacuum that was created by this, in a sense, self-destruction of the lizard men. And then we did have some more ideas, and we went through some inspirational material. And then last week, this says The Rock. It's a special prison containing Sean Connery or something. Could be. In week 2, we fleshed out our beginning area. We came up with something like this. This was done in a hex kit because we were, as with streaming troubles, we were having trouble getting Worldographer to work properly. I think someone mentioned that I might have been trying to drill down. It might have been user error just in terms of I was trying to get to the lowest level, but without having the details come in, we were trying to add stuff in. Anyway, it just wasn't working right for us. So we quickly switched to Hexed, though maybe not as quickly for some, not quickly enough. Came up with this area. Here is our initial dungeon, which we're calling, or I guess let's just go through these landmarks. So we've got a mountain range back here, calling the ankle breaks. The primary town, I believe, is actually this, and I think we called it Stonegate. There's also a secondary town called Shade Hill Town or Shadton. And then there's this major castle called Windburn Manor. We have some forest over here, which I don't think we gave a word to. We didn't give the forest a name. We do have the name of this river that passes through the area that is called the Breakwater. also known as the Cut. These swamps down here do have a name. It's called the Great Quag. And then there is this interesting feature down here that we've called the Mire Man. It's also called Big Gan, maybe by folks who live in the interim. There is this ruined watchtower here that's of Lizard Man design construction. And then finally the actual dungeon, which we called, what did we call? Did we have a cool name for the dungeon? Yes, the Glittering Sink. Because of maybe some of the interesting way that maybe some of the minerals, or maybe there's gems, or I guess gems are minerals ultimately. So then minerals, maybe the way they kind of glitter in there. And then we thought, does it contain a powerful resource? We don't we don't know. But there we got that. So that brings us to week 3. First things first. So week 3 is the dungeon. And let me pull up, which I hadn't done yet because I'm struggling. Let me pull up the Gygax 75. I'm not going to pull it up on stream just because I don't have access to some of my toys, so I have to close that window to share this one, and it's not that big of a deal to do. I'm just going to read our tasks, and I'll copy and paste the tasks ahead of us into we can have it here, so we can have it. Okay, so first of all, draw and stock 3 levels of your dungeon. We'll see how much we can get to. Quote, step 3 is very difficult and time-consuming. Each level should have a central theme and some distinguishing feature, i.e. a level with large open areas swarming with goblins, one where the basic pattern of corridors seems to repeat endlessly, one inhabited by nothing but fire-dwelling or fire-using monsters, etc. As each level is finished, the various means of getting to lower levels must be keyed and noted on the appropriate lower levels. A careful plan of what monsters and treasures will be found where on each level is also most necessary, and it can take as long to prepare as the level itself. Alright, so there's a lot. We got a lot of work to do. There is our task list. And here's how it's been broken down for us. Oh, unfortunately, it's going to be... So let me I'm going to have to fix this up a bit. It pasted in, and I should have had it pasted as plain text, and I didn't. Might have been a mistake on my part. We'll just make it a list. Make it easy. Alright, so first we're going to have to describe... So first we have to describe the entrance describe the entrance to the dungeon in 7 to 10 words. Set aside at least 1 page of your journal. Well, we're not. Our journal is endless. It is an endless page. But we should, let's see. Point-to-point map is a simple map with circles. So that's probably what we're going to do mostly is use the kind of mind mapping tools that we have available in this kind of app to make our dungeon. Oops. And then, let's see. For each level include 6 D6 plus 6 rooms/areas. And I think what I'm going to do for this level is... Hey, Pete Giant. Oh, Brian Smith and Andy Duvall saying that we should have some glass orbs. I'm always down for some glass orbs. One of the funny things is and then Brian Smith said green glowy orbs. Never watched The Rock, Brian Smith. Wow. but they remember the image of those things in the trailer way too clearly. Yeah, they were kind of cool. So if you haven't seen the movie The Rock, and goodness knows if you haven't seen it, you ought to go see it. Is there was some kind of horrible chemical? It was the worst chemical in the universe, and it was kept in these balls, these kind of glass spheres. I don't know why. I don't know. I don't think there's any reason listed for that other than to make them, to put them in the most danger of being obviously dumped open or broken because they're these glass spheres and they were kept on these strings. And so you'd have this weapon, that kind of missile or whatever the thing is going to be, and that the thing is in, and then inside it would be like a canister, but it was just some kind of a holder, and then this pearl. If you can imagine a string of pearls, but each one of these pearls is holding this horrible gas that does horrible things. Um, it's it doesn't really make much sense in terms of why would why would you make a thing that's so delicate to transport, right? Wouldn't you want to make something that's fairly hardy and safe to transport, and then use the impact of the actual bomb or explosive to actually set up? But no, these things are in the most delicate configuration possible. But it was a very strong image. I think it's one of those things, and not a bad lesson, I guess, in terms of gaminess. Is yes, I'm sure that it's this is not something that they were unaware of at the time. That boy, this makes, from a practical perspective, does this make any sense at all? The answer is no, it does not. However, what it does make is a wonderful cinematic image, and folks like Brian, who may never have seen the film but just seen the trailer, it sticks with you because it's such a powerful image, and that I think when we think of in terms of stuff we do in our games, to bring it around to games, in our designs, we can get too caught up in, oh, it's not realistic, or why would they do that, or wouldn't they do why does the villain always talk to Bond about his secret plans before they do it? It makes no sense. Well, of course it makes no sense. However, what it does do is it makes for an excellent film. And that is what we're trying to do. And, we're not making a film, but we're making it, we're trying to make something that's fun to play through. So if you have to choose between something that is ultimately realistic or fun, sometimes choose what's fun. I would say all the time choose what's fun. Have it make sense in terms of the context of what you're doing, but use it, make fun. Alrighty. Location and setting of the dungeon, asked Pete Giant. So the location, we don't have a name. We actually didn't really come up with a name for our spot. Or ultimately, we don't have a name for this concept yet. I guess it's I don't know, Fall of the Lizard Folk. I don't know, Rise of People. I don't know. Darkness takes the lizard. I don't know. We don't have a name. We don't have a name for it. As far as where the particular dungeon is, the dungeon we're going to be doing is the Glittering Sink. So that's the dungeon. I'll put that over here. Oops. Quote. And the Glittering Sink, we don't know too much. Skink. Don't know too much about it. We hadn't really established too much. I think we suggested maybe it was some kind of mine. Yeah, mines are fine. They call it a mine. Yes, they do, Gimli. For good reason. It was a mine. Doing this Glittering Sink. Yeah, Brian Smith says Fall of Reptile World Dominion. Yeah, there's come up with what was the after? What was the first? There's Jurassic Park. What was the Cretaceous? And what was that? Whatever the first Paleozoan. I don't know. Whatever the first sort of mammalian. Rise of the Paleozoic. I don't know. The actual dungeon is located here, so it's a good few hexes away from our starting town, basically. You have, and I kind of think that this tower, and we're not going to go over through it in terms of the dungeon, but I think my personal opinion is that the tower maybe was set up originally to guard this or to watch it. There's some relation between this. There might even be, hey, there's a secret entrance, some kind of long tunnel or something that leads, maybe some way to get from here to there. In there, I don't think they're necessarily the same place, but they could definitely be related. in some way, but that's where it is in terms of the world. So your party's starting somewhere over in this quadrant, and then the dungeon's over here, and then there's this interesting area down there. Ray Otis, hey Ray, thanks for joining. Yep, we are on to week 3, behind in just in terms of the stream because of technical issues on my part. Hey, I mean, what's a week without technical issues on my part? And I'm using what I'm assuming is an awful microphone on my webcam because my other mic setup that I was trying out did not work. So apologies for bad audio quality. Doing what I can with what I got. So now so let's see. First things first. Oh, actually, you know, we should, I could do this differently. So these are our tasks. So the first thing we need the name. So what are we thinking of our dungeon entrance? We need 7 to 10 words for the dungeon entrance. Hey, Don Rossavelli. Good day to all. Elfbait says, skink is a happy accident. Well, no, that was Pete Giant. Let's see. Oh, we're just catching up here. I don't know what Elfbait. What are you referring to? It wasn't a matter of pages. Literally just going through a process for no reason other than to just do it. I'm not sure what that's responding to. Hey, Dungeon Master Masterclass says, in their task list, is there anything about understanding who built the dungeon and why? There is not in this. I don't think. We do come up with, I think this is more about I believe, Dungeon Master Masterclass. But of course, Ray is here. He could potentially, or if he's still here. Ah, Brian. Okay. I got you. Elbase, referring to something at the top of the screen. Okay. In terms of the theming of the dungeon as a whole, right? Who built it? Why they built it? That is not covered here. We did talk about it a bit. Ooh, didn't mean to do that. We did talk about it a bit when we came up with our surrounding area in terms of this perhaps being used to be a mine by the lizard folk. And then, you know, we have to think about, well, why, what did they abandon, or why did they abandon it? We didn't get into why they abandoned it, potentially, other than the fact that the whole empire went to crap. But given that it's a dungeon, it's probably good for us to think about there has to be some kind of danger or multiple dangers in here as to why it was abandoned. Or it was abandoned and then it became dangerous, things moved in. We haven't decided as of yet which one of those things it is. It doesn't seem like the specs of the task in front of us, I think, are on a more practical level about individual levels of the dungeon and generating those on themes. It definitely, I think, just because, remember, this is the Gygax 75 challenge, so the sort of in the 1975 spirit of dungeons, I think it leans by nature the context of the original article and the original steps that we're kind of trying to emulate is really built on more or less funhouse dungeons. So going back to what Gygax says in his original article, hey, you've got one level that's swarming with goblins. It's basically a big open area. One place that's essentially some kind of pattern-based maze. One level that is just full of fire-dwelling monsters. And really what he's saying there is the implication is that each level of the dungeon has a theme, or he's not even implying, he's saying explicitly, hey, each level should have a theme, but there's this implicit part, just even in the levels that he describes, that these levels don't have to really mean anything in relation to each other. There is nothing really in common between those 3 levels, right there. What kind of unifying principle is there between just a bunch of goblins running around in a more or less open area, some kind of pattern-based maze of corridors that maybe is magical or enchanted, and then a whole bunch of fire-breathing monsters? There's not. Now we can put those together and look at it like we might look at something we roll up in some random tables and think to ourselves, well, how would we put these together and come up with ways? But it's not really in what Gygax is saying. That's not Doesn't matter, right? He's not saying pick three things and figure out how they work together. He's just pick three things. Um, let's see. Brian Smith. Ah, okay. Elfbait. Okay, referring back to I see that he lost steam. Process will interesting just seem to hold you back. Yeah, I mean, I think that's true. Elfbait, I hear where you're coming from, and it definitely will be interesting to see how things develop. I have a feeling that that's not going to be an uncommon um, response from people. And I think part of it, and I think this is true basically of any process, especially if you've been doing things your own way, right? I've been doing things my own way, and then I go to do it this way, and it's always going to be this push and pull between wanting to do things my own way and then sticking to the system. And I think part of the exercise, part of the reason why I want to do it, and the reason that makes it that uh, that makes it interesting is that push pull of me wanting to like, oh, I want to jump ahead and do this, or I want to do things this way, and then saying, nope, I'm gonna stick to the process. And I think some interesting things can come out of it. It'd be interesting if you went back into it and finished it just to go through it, because I think sometimes it's good, but sometimes it's like relearning something a different way. And it's an example for me is my daughter just finished had her last day of school yesterday of second grade, and one of the things that over this year that was interesting for me is learning the new math, or I don't even know if it's called new math anymore, but learning the way they do math now, so I can help her with her math homework, and that was a real thing because I'm just so used to doing things my own way, and they have a very specific way of doing it. Now that I've grokked it a bit, I do appreciate what they're doing, and I think that if I was learning math now, or, I had to relearn math. I don't know. I get bumped on the head, lose all my math knowledge. I have to relearn it. I think that learning it the way that my daughter's learning it is much better tools than the way that I remember having gone through and learned math. But still, having all that history of having learned math my way, it was definitely hard to not do that and to go through these steps. So I learned something, and I feel like maybe you can learn something, maybe you won't. That's all part of the process. But part of it is the interesting thing is right. This isn't necessarily the process for everybody, but it's the process that Gygax was kind of putting out there, and that Ray was kind enough to put into a digestible format. Let's see. Brian Smith saying, so we got to get trucking here. Special kind of key or lock, blast of dragon flame. Mining tech is pretty low bar. Yeah, I'm not thinking. I'm thinking much more low. I don't know what mines were like in the Middle Ages or before, but I'm thinking, did they even have carts? Did they just use wheelbarrows? I don't know, but I'm not thinking like. Oh, and by the way, Brian Smith, there is a whole mining cart part of the rock, which is hilarious. So if we wanted to go down, if we wanted to go chintzy '80s movie, they literally put this whole. And sorry, spoilers for I don't know 20 whatever year old movie, but they basically is a mine cart ride action sequence in the rock. The idea was, and I don't know if this is based on any kind of reality, that there was some old mines underneath or inside the island of Alcatraz underground that the prison was built on top of. So they actually do that. There's actually more in common, and I'm thinking out of with between the movie The Rock and whatever this place is than we might have first thought. Whoa, Magicicada. Oh boy, too much going on here. All right, let's see. Maybe the opening was built close to a population of periodical lizards that have emerged from hibernation, kind of like cicadas. Interesting. Okay, so let's see. Well, let's just okay. Well, this we're gonna do. Let's see. We'll go with several deep pits. What are those piles? Uh, partially concealed behind. I forget those piles of kind of like they would just cart out rubbish. The spoils, right? Of mining spoils, and now to build up on whose idea was that? Pete Giant, I guess. Talked about cicadas or kind of wyverns. I think it's called spoils, but yeah, excavated. I'll put excavation of yes, excavated earth. I think the word is spoils. And then, where's my, let's see. This area has been taken over by a, I'll call it hive of wyvern. I'm going to call them wyvern locusts for now. We'll have to figure out what those are, but I kind of like the idea of sort of cicadas. But I just think of locusts as being the more violent of such. Rayota's telling me spoilings, tailings. Oh, good, good. All right, so we got some good stuff. There's our dungeon entrance. Several deep pits, partially concealed behind piles of excavated earth and mining spoils. This area has been taken over by a hive of wyvern locusts. So we've got a nice dungeon entrance that's, I think, it's evocative, and it also has a guardian of sorts, as you're gonna have to figure out, smoke out, whatever. You could have some interesting stuff with are these wyvern locusts awake? Are they asleep? You know, we have all kinds of questions we could ask about them, how they work. Can you smoke them out like bees? That might be an interesting solution to that problem. But we've got that done. Now we need, oh, I was going to pull up something else. Let me see if I can find it. It was something we looked at. I'm not sure where I stuck it. We looked at it as part of the OSR Reddit Roundup, but it was a shoot. It was that dungeon. It was basically a dungeon. Someone had gone through, done the BX, kind of done the math on BX dungeons, and it talked about kind of the room. Did I put it in here? Let's see. It's perilous. Here we go. Yep, it was on the Spriggan's Den. So we'll use this as our guide. Let's see if this, did I make it so that's showing up for you? Okay, so we're gonna use this as our guide because we saw this. They did some really good work. So 18 room dungeon. This just saves us. We could do the math. We could do the math and do it. And I even somewhere, when I was scrounging around trying to fix my audio issues, I put aside. I didn't bring my AD&D. One of my first ideas was we could use the AD&D Dungeon Master's Guide to do the dungeon, but then I didn't think I would be here away from my stuff, so I didn't bring it. And then the other thing was that then I thought, oh well, I brought my BX stuff because I'm supposed to game tonight theoretically. So I think the basic, or one of the basic, or either the basic or the expert book has, I think, a smaller generator in it, but we'll do this. Baron by Wyverst the second. Oh, quarry pits with water. Oh, that's good. I'll throw some of that on the side. Maybe some other. I think I think the quarry pits with water is interesting because maybe they lead somewhere. Play with some water features. Maybe they go somewhere. Like if you could swim down. Swim down into it. But I don't want to get too caught up in that because we got to get some. We got to get some. We got to get some levels built here. Yeah, where is that? Move you. Interesting. Okay. All right. So we got. Oh, why are you messing up on me now? Here we go. Okay. So if we're gonna do. I'll just move this aside for now. 18 room dungeon. So we're just gonna do a simple point-to-point map. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna move over to the side. Might need to take some bigger things. All right. So we're gonna have. So we'll call this the entrance. So from entrance, I mean how we're getting into the dungeon. So it's going to be either a we'll call it a and it'll be interesting. One thing that's nice with having, let's say, some kind of pit as the entrance is you could actually have multiple levels that come out, and the party might want to choose, right? You could maybe access just the first level and then go down to the second level. So I'll call it kind of a terraced opening onto a main pit. Terranced? Is Terrence even here today? Devious Dungeon painting says maybe a water tunnel could lead to a bullywug lair in the dungeon. Could be. Let me. I'll. Actually, I'm gonna discard. Let's see. Get rid of that, and I'll just make a list here. Bullywug lair? Question mark. Let's see. Brian Smith says, "Can there be a tube slide element?" Can be like a vertical action with a water slide. Oh, so yeah, we're going full. Are we going full Goonies? I'll just put that. Okay, so we've got a terraced opening. I'll just from a main pit. A main from the main pit. Yeah, okay, I'll do that from the main pit. All right, so we have our entrance. We'll let's see. Well, I guess we'll just and we'll have a main. We'll call it the main tunnelway. I think in terms of a mine, and I don't know. Even Dungeon Bane says never go full Goonies. No, no, don't go full Goonies. I don't know how a mine works, and this is maybe where we could. I suppose we could go here and go to. You really got to get off of. I got to get off of Bing. Where am I trying to get to? Let's see. Mine. Map. No, not a mine. Not a mine. I don't know. Ancient mine. I feel like I don't want to. I actually want to get real mines, not. Is that real? I don't know. Is that supposed to be real? Do we know? Is this a real thing? But this seems like it's more modern. That's not an ancient mine, is it? Hold on a minute. I'm going to go down rabbit holes. I'm not going to get anything done. Hold on a minute. What does the Stone Art blog say about this? Okay, they had to go to Krakow. All right, salt mines of Valechka? I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. So click listening and get to the mines of Moria. All right, does it say when it was first done? Out interruption from the early 13th century. Okay. All right. So it seems like they did a whole bunch of stuff here that probably most of these folks didn't do, but hey, look, we need inspiration and we got it. And this is and folks always ask after these, what I'm using. I'm using Ouija.io, so if you're interested, and I have no affiliation with them. I wish they did have some kind of affiliate link because I would use it because I'm doing a fair bit to show it off and people seem to like it, but I just use it, and I believe they have a fairly robust free plan. This is kind of a cutaway. I guess I'm looking at because what I was thinking, and it's not a ton of fun, so we'll have to think about some ways. Though I like these. There's different. What do they call these chambers? Is I was thinking that the main tunnel. Right, I assume when you're mining, and again I don't know anything, but my idea would be that you would go kind of in a straight line. Here's your main thing, and you would hit veins, and then you would kind of peel off to catch whatever these veins or whatever these deposits of minerals that you're finding. So you'd end up having kind of a leaf, a branching, a tree structure. So with the main main mine is maybe the trunk of the tree, and then these smaller ones coming out. And presumably, you could once it gets super complicated, you can have crossing routes. Brian Smith says lizards could easily climb vertical shafts and may not need a ton of ladders or whatnot. That's true. Though I was thinking, Brian Smith, that the lizards, being that they were in charge, might not be doing the mining. They might be leaving that to people, especially if there's that whole thing with them not liking stone being underground, rock, right? We're inside this, so that might be more human friendly than we might think. That the lizard men were overseeing it, but not doing the dirty work themselves. They're sending down their cheap laborers. Cheap laborers. What's our theme for this first level, you think? Yeah, in real minds, yeah, crouched over, walking for miles. Yeah, yeah, that does not seem like fun stuff. Okay, so we got some inspiration there, which is good. Oh, oops, I actually wanted to copy that link. And that's something that I do like about this kind of Ouija sort of this kind of board that I really can just. No, actually, I didn't want that. I wanted that one. Is that I can just add all. Oh, that's weird. I can just add all kinds of stuff on here, and I can just keep expanding my space. Yes, right. You're. Though I don't know about the. Are we more? Do you think you'd be more likely to have beards if you lived underground? I kind of feel like you would lose all this stuff. Though maybe it would be your beards would almost be like antennae where you could feel stuff with your wild, crazy hair. It'd be interesting to think about if humans really did transform into, that was the evolutionary or movement, right? Would be if you lived underground, you become dwarfish. Would the beards and stuff make sense, or would you become more smooth and hairless? It's not like you have protection from the sun or anything. Though there's cold weather. I mean, it's cold underground or cold weather, but it just gets colder. Uh, unless you're unless you get down to the planet's core, in which case it might get warmer again, but a little more cold coffee. Um, these are lists with these salt mines. So I do like this combination of sort of vertical shafts, or they're calling them chambers. So we got a guys. So we have the main tunnelway. All right, so this we got to do. So level 1. Got we got the main tunnelway. Move our notes. We're gonna have some of these vertical chambers. No, that's not what. Oh, I got 2 because I'll need 2, but we'll come up with names for these. So vertical chamber. This is I could definitely see how some of these vertical chambers are both kind of rooms in themselves, but they're also really kind of good for sort of decaying the space up, as they say, or decaying, I believe is actually there's an S on the end of the name, but that it's both a room and a passageway. If it's a salt mine, there needs to be trolls. I think we're sticking with glittering sink. Though I don't, isn't a skink? Isn't that an animal, or is that a? I know there's skunks, but I want to say there's something else too that's skinks. Let's see. What other kind of rooms? I think maybe 1 or 2 vertical chambers is kind of all that we need. I'm gonna have to make this way bigger. You're gonna get huge. And then we'll. We still need a theme, right? Am I right? We haven't figured out the theme yet for this. Let's just get some. We got to get rooms though first. Or we got to get. Really need to get the theme before we get to the rooms. I need to put somewhere. I guess. Okay, we need a. Let's see, a branching structure. Some kind of. DB's Dungeon Paint says that level 1 was a hive. The hive, I thought we'd put that the hive was outside. I'm not. So the hive is kind of your sort of guardian, right? What do you got to get through to get in? Is the the outside where these entrances to the dungeon are, were have become comfortably numb, have become has become the hive colony home of some wyvern locusts. But once we get inside the actual dungeon, let's see. Brian Smith says steam, brittle footing, sticky sap, slime, falling, getting stuck. Yeah, I'm wondering what would we call that as the theme. So you know, we're gonna think of a what would be the uniting feature of those? So remember, in the I'm just gonna say Gygaxian sense we're talking here, right? It was like endless maze or fire monsters or goblins. I suppose if we were gonna put it in like one kind of phrase, I guess if we come up with one sort of phrase, treacherous terrain. All right, that's fine. That works. That works. I'll just add it. No, I didn't want to do that, but we'll just take that anyway because I'll need it. Treacherous terrain. All right. So the good thing about having this theme is we think about what sort of stuff lives here. No, I want to move you down a bit. What kind of stuff lives in this terrain? You know what? Actually, that's fine. No, I didn't mean to do. I did not mean to do that. You can think of the kind of. We could definitely look at oozes and kind of things that would be in this. Maybe vertically stacking it is better. Maybe that's the way I got to do it. I think the one thing I would like with these is that you got to kind of link it on the side you want. Because it ain't getting there. It's not auto moving around. And I hate having to spend time on stream rejiggering these things around, but it needs to be done. Needs to be done. Otherwise, I won't be able to keep anything straight. Oh, Devious Dungeon Pain, maybe eat the locusts or the larvae. That's interesting. Yeah, it could be, maybe the larvae is good. Because you think, kind of like a lot of, happens in a lot of creatures, right? When creatures are babies, they're tiny, they're subject to all kinds of creatures that either just they don't mess with at all, or they'll just consume. So I like the idea of, yeah, these the critters down there, you know, stuff, because there's all kinds of natural. We could see all kinds of natural reasons or things that could be down there that might, like your I don't know, the pupae, the sacs, the eggs, whatever. Some of them just fall down into the pit, and there's sometimes they just splat and things just eat the splats. Maybe they persist and the babies are down there, but these wyvern locust things don't go down there, or it could be something interesting where the sound is muffled. Maybe there's I like that. Hold on a minute. Let's see. There's some kind of there's fungi on the walls of the of the pit absorb sound. Let's see. Brian Smith says a troop of sentient ropers who can help lower you down further or eat you. Um, could be. Yeah, we got. I'll look some more. Let's see. We'll put over. Let's put over some notes here. Or wait, I had another thing for that kind of stuff. Here we go. All right, so we've got ropers. We'll have to read up on ropers a bit more. All right, so if we're doing 18 rooms, this is an 18-room dungeon, so maybe we'll do not that many rooms. Let's see, for level 1. Or maybe we will, I don't know. Pete Giant says, should we be informed from previous steps? You mean steps in the... Pete Giant says, all this Gygax 75 stuff does work together. If you skip back to the beginning of the stream, after my audio... Once my audio difficulties were done, then I did go over the previous weeks. But basically, this is a dungeon. The world is humans and maybe assorted other folks attempting to... let's see, take the world back, or inherit the world from a vast empire of lizard men who have been destroyed, and we haven't decided yet if it's complete and utter destruction or if there's still pockets of lizard men. We don't know that yet. Maybe for this first area there aren't any lizard men left present, so it's a question that is up for debate in terms of this part of the world. And then this actual dungeon, we were saying, was some kind of mine that was at least created or run by the lizard men. We were thinking maybe that people were forced to actually do the dungeon, to work the dungeon, but it was at least it was lizard folk. Lizard folk managed, maybe is the best word. I could definitely see some like less intelligent lizard people. So we talked about troglodytes being part of them. They could be down here, sure. All right, so let's. We still got rooms to put in there. Troglodytes or / trog. I don't know, subspecies maybe. Kobolds, perhaps. What kind of kobolds? We didn't mention kobolds. Are we doing dog-faced kobolds? Are we doing, or not dog-faced? Are we doing canid kobolds or draconic kobolds? All right. Entrance, main tunnelway. We have vertical chamber. We're gonna have some. So it's a mine. So we're gonna definitely have some mining chambers, but we're gonna have to differentiate. And we're calling those chambers. We can't call them chambers. What do we get any idea? What do they call them here? They call different things chambers. Okay, so we can call things chambers. Do they actually call those? They're actually chapels? I guess because they have domed ceilings, or are they literally chapels? These might actually literally be chapels. So it might be interesting to think that maybe the humans put up a human god chapel. We don't know who the human gods are. Human god or gods chapel. What were they mining? We don't know. We haven't determined what they were mining. Some kind of, we were thinking there might be some kind of interesting resource that we hadn't really established what that is yet. I want to say that maybe, if there is something interesting down here, it won't be on level 1. I think level 1, look, it's a dungeon, and even just from a game perspective, I don't know whether it's realistic or not, but you're gonna have to be, however deep this dungeon is, if you're gonna find out what's interesting about it, or if there's something, ooh, this is super meaningful to the cause, you're gonna have to get down there. You're gonna have to get down to the bottoms and and figure that out. So I'm not really, so it is an important question overall. I'm going to punt on it for the moment simply because my perspective is you're going to have to, you are going to have to do some work. Right, there's red caps and gremlins. Yeah, those are definitely nasty. All right, so we've got vertical chamber, which is going to be where it's going to lead us. You know, this will be a lower, it's both a room, both a quote-unquote room and access to lower levels. We've got some mining chambers. Our mining chamber, we're going to have some empty ones. We have to figure out, so we got to figure out some things to think of. So we have the chapel that is good in terms of if we're looking at, well, what were people doing, you know, because the thing is, and here's where the fun house, if we were just doing a simple fun house, this is where it gets easy because we don't have to worry about how does it make sense. We're doing something a little bit differently, maybe for good or for ill, in that we are considering this thing as, okay, this was a mine. So in a mine, you know, in a real building, nobody cares if it's repetitive. You're in a warehouse. What are you gonna do? Find a bunch of big rooms. May or may not have stuff in them. Maybe a couple of smaller rooms, but you know you're gonna find a lot of repetition. What are you gonna do in an office building? It's gonna be a whole bunch of offices, repeated, over and over again, right? It doesn't care. But from a game perspective, I think everyone talks about, well, we don't want to have repetition stuff. So we need to. One thing we're gonna have to figure out is, okay, we're gonna have a bunch of these kind of mining chambers. What's in them? So one of the things we can have is obviously just can be just you know, we can have some that are empty. Um, oh, you know, that's what I'm. Yeah, mining chamber. So we'll have one that's just empty. It's just maybe there's empty. You know, there's some garbage, broken tools, etc. That's fine for one. But we're gonna need, you know, we're gonna need more. Oops. Definitely one is some kind of layer. I like the idea of some kind of, well, oozes. I don't think of oozes having layers, right? It's more of a, do they move around or what? Um, could be remnants of a smelter. Could be, or I'm thinking maybe they take that somewhere else. That here they just do the mining and then it's moved elsewhere for refinement. If it's a metal kind of thing, though I'm not sure. I'm not sure what that would be. So another mining chamber that's some kind of monster lair. And I'm not going to worry. I definitely want to have, you know, multiple entrances and exits and maybe things. We could definitely consider if there was some kind of tunneling monster, maybe that a tunneling monster did stuff here too, so things to consider, right? So I'm not ruling that stuff out, but I'm just want to get out our kind of main rooms here. Um, if we think about, let's say if we were thinking about doing, let's say for level 1, not doing, say, 18 rooms, but let's say we're doing, I don't know, 7 or 8 rooms. So we got entrance, that's kind of 1, 2, it's a hallway, 3, got 1, 4, 5, 6, and we'll have a, call it a minor tunnelway. Kind of move that. I definitely think some kind of mining chamber that has a, you know, I'm a sucker for these. Has a mysterious pool of liquid. Um, do you drink it? Does something come out of it? Who knows? We'll put it off of that one. I keep thinking I gotta make this thing bigger and bigger. Maybe that can go to the bottom. Devious Dungeon Base says you drink it and then something comes out of you. Totally. I would totally be down with that. And we can have another vertical chamber to make it different that's is not a passageway, but could also be a lair. Just a room, lair, but it's also high. It's also very vertical. And we could put that off of the minor tunnelway. So if we can kind of picture this in our brains, we're going to have the main pits coming down, and who knows what else is down there, but then there's this kind of sort of terraced opening. Enter in, you see sort of a main tunnel, and there will probably have some pit pulleys. Maybe they're broken. Maybe some elements of a pulley system in the main shaft, just heavy chains. Maybe that's how they got stuff out. You come into this big tunnel, and now we're seeing these kind of chambers that are sort of cut off the sides of the main tunnel. Then we see where another smaller tunnelway was carved out, and then we have a couple more chambers that are cut off of there. At some point on the main tunnelway, maybe that's where it ends in another kind of vertical chamber that we can have room elements. So when we think about monster, what we put in rooms, it'll definitely be kind of a room, but it's also this passage that will lead down to another level. That lower level that it leads to may or may not be accessible via that main pit. Maybe the main pit also goes down there. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's offset in a way, but we have that. In terms of these different mining chambers, we haven't gotten into necessarily what some of the kind of detail things, but we've got one that's just a straight up monster lair of something. Maybe some of these, let's see, we got maybe ropers, though maybe ropers would make sense more in the vertical chamber. I'll put it in parentheses. Ropers? Though actually, I think, let's see, how many, It almost seems like this one would be more interesting than the ropers, because who's going to come into this chamber? Maybe we'll have to put in some things that just kind of fall down there. I don't know, we'll leave it there. Maybe it's, it doesn't have to make total sense. The ropers can move, right? Well, let's see. Pete Giant says maybe the players can see light coming from the pool. Maybe. Let's see. What else we've got here? So we've got on rooms. We've got and we got this chapel that they made to some kind of human god, right? So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Not including the tunnels. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 8 and 9, including the 2 tunnels. I'm going to consider that some room. So that can be our level uno. And I'm already over time, though. I'm gonna go for a little bit longer to make up for the fact that I goofed. But let's just get into doing a little bit more detail. So as you can see, I'm doing everything at a high level. This is a week's worth of work that I'm putting a lot into, basically an hour. So I'm not going to be able to get into having complete room descriptions and everything. I'm gonna hash out the main details, and hopefully I'll have a chance to come back through. And when I maybe create the map, go through it and flesh them out more particulars. Oh, you know what? Here we go. Here's something I just thought of. I'm going to cross this out because I'm going to put it in the title. So there's probably some, which god is it? It'd be interesting if the god of rock sort of the what is like the underworld is a really strong, much different than we would consider. We usually think of underworld like death and everything, right? But here it's a real protection because this is how humanity sought protection. So it's a god of protection. And I think what we could do here is there will be some symbology that or symbology for I think that humans that are doing mining maybe would put symbols into things. Like here it's dangerous, treacherous terrain, slippery. They might put some signage here, and here's where you're going to see where that symbology is based on. That it's a theme that we can have in the different levels of the humans trying to be subtle, telling each other things, and here's where you can get a little bit of maybe not the complete key, but a little bit of you'll be able to see in the rocks here where they've been able to carve and create a formal space, the kind of symbolism that we can then use in the rest of the dungeon. And if you can pick up on it, find the signs, maybe you can get some kind of help, right? Symbolic key for carved rest of the dungeon. Kind of like if knowing that hobos would leave marks at places like this is safe to sleep, or this is dangerous, this guy's crappy, but you need to kind of know not only the code but also where they put it. This can give you a sign of that stuff. P. John says maybe with that a mining chamber could contain some detritus of the monster's feeding habits. Oh yeah, definitely. Barracks, kitchen, mess hall, place to pupe. Yeah, though it's we're looking at here, it's a mine, right? I don't know that they would. There's probably one of these things, and remember, no humans have been here in a while. I don't know if they were eating down here. We could probably we could put some place that they did their eating, because this is not a residence for the people. They were just working here, but presumably they still need to poop. So we'll add that off this minor one. I don't think their overlords were particularly concerned about pooping. It'll be another mining chamber that we'll see was maybe used as a. I can't imagine they're really cooking here either, but maybe they were. I imagine they're bringing in boxed lunches. I don't know. You're getting a crust of bread and whatever. Because remember, this isn't even like a capitalist mine. So you're probably not. I do think there would be somewhere. Maybe there would be some kind of traces of old fire pits. Yeah, whatever. Waste holes. So I don't think they would necessarily have like here's the kitchen, but maybe they would have. There'd probably be one room that once they emptied it out, they would use. Though probably not. Actually, they probably wouldn't They probably wouldn't crap where they ate. Maybe that would be a different. Maybe the vertical chamber here was a waste dumping pit. Both roper waste, because maybe originally it was where people dumped stuff, and that maybe that attracted the ropers in the first place. I don't know. Are ropers supposed to be intelligent? I don't know. Some kind of animal. Let's see. Hey, Ian. Coming in between meetings to catch us up some pooping conversation. Well, glad we could be of service. All right. So this can be, so this is what I'm just putting some notes here. Narrower, maybe more slick, slippery, downward slope towards roper nest. Is one of the rooms a poop chute? I don't think we're having a poop chute, but the vertical chamber over here, I'm going to call a roper. I'm just going to officially call it a roper nest. I don't know if roper's nest. We may have to change that to stay within the good graces of the OGL. So we don't have your water chute yet, Brian Smith. Definitely no poop chute. We don't. Let's see. Do we need another? They have exceptional intelligence in AD&D. Okay, we might have to come up with something else because then I don't think the ropers would be sitting there. I just don't think there's enough there. But maybe something else is living there. Maybe something more. Maybe we need something more scavenger-y. It might make sense then that the ropers would be over here. I'll have to come back and fix that. Maybe the ropers are hanging out because this one is definitely one that has more, or they're in the pit. They're in the main pit itself. The ropers. They could be horrendous when snakes are involved. Oh yes. Oh, Brian Smith says, "What are the ones that drop on you from a piercers?" Yeah, piercers. That might make another one. Better one. Yeah. I don't know if they're unintelligent. I mean, we can always make up our own. These are all just, you know, we're just roughing it out. Stand-ins, but it'll be good because if we do go to look later, we'll have a better idea. The main tunnelway is wide, slick with dripping water. Yeah, fungi on the walls. Trace minerals give off glittering reflections in light. Brian Smith says some piercers at the top of the main shaft would be great. They could drop like hundreds of feet and really do some damage. Whew. That's definitely a trap, for sure. I think the main pit is open to the outside, so there's nowhere for the piercers to drop from unless we have overhangs and stuff. But definitely some of these vertical chambers that we're doing, or some of these chapel or vaulted ceilings, could definitely have piercers. I definitely like having them in this vertical chamber area. I think that's very cool, and we could play around with that. I mean, we'll definitely, there's definitely going to be some like your rats and your centipedes and maybe some other things that are down in there. Definitely ooze of some kind will be down here. It's good because it fits in with like there's like all kinds of slick slime. Slimy. All right. Yeah, spiders. We could do this. This was a monster lair, so we'll call this a spider den. I really enjoy camel spiders, but that's a giant spider lair, some kind. So we've got a chapel. So let's wrap. I'm going to kind of put a wrapping on this. This is a lizardman sauna. That'll probably be outside. I think they like to bake in the sun. Just to put a bow on this, we got one level roughed out. Again, remember, I'm spending an hour going through this. The process talks about spending a week on it, but I think, and folks, you can correct me if I'm way off base, but I think given the time, especially since I got all out of sorts at the start with the audio things, I think we got a good roughing out of a dungeon level. The theme is treacherous terrain. The entrance is we have the main entrance to the dungeon is well, let me go back, and that's actually off of here. So the main entrance of the dungeon is several deep pits, partially concealed behind piles of excavated earth and mining spoils. This area has been taken over by a hive of wyvern locusts. Should be our own custom creature that we haven't figured out right yet. But if you think about wyverns plus locusts, fun. From this level, one of the main pit, maybe the largest of the pits here, it goes down some level. This is an entrance that is a kind of a terraced opening off of the side of this pit. Fungi on the sides of the pit, and maybe we also talk about fungus in the main tunnelway. It may absorb sound, which is why I'm thinking people don't hear you scream. Maybe if things do fall down here, like baby wyverns that come down here, maybe they get pushed down here and have to fly out, and that's part of their when they're sort of adults and they make it out. That's kind of their rite of passage. I better write a note about that. That maybe things come out to grab them. I better make that a note before I forget, because that's kind of cool. Let's see. Adolescent honeys. Wyverns are pushed into the pits and must survive and fly out to attain adulthood. Bam. That's a really cool. I'm just going to give myself a little credit here for that one. I think that's a very cool idea. It also means that we give a reason. There's a built-in reason when we say, like, well, how can this stuff be living down here in an old mine with this stuff on top that's going to stop anything from getting in there, because the wyverns are going to eat it? Well, it's because the wyverns are throwing their own young down there, and that could even be a fun thing if every once in a blue moon, if the party's down there, that some adolescent wyverns are going to be chucked down into the bottom of the pit, and then climbing up the walls and trying to get out, and then stuff is coming out of the woodwork and trying to eat the wyverns. Brian Smith says, gross living carpet of wyvernlings crawling over each other to get out of the pit, a whole monstrous race of beings. All right, so we've got that working for us. So now we have a main tunnelway, which is coming out of this entrance. It's wide, it's slimy, there's slick with dripping liquids coming maybe down from the ceiling, some like drippage. There's fungi on the walls, but in the places that are not covered, we see these traces of these minerals that are giving off. If you have your candlelight or torchlight or lantern light, whatever, you're getting some nice glittering. You're seeing why this place would have been called the glittering sink, and I assume in the main pit that would also be probably the same kind of effect. Off of this main tunnelway, we have a minor tunnelway that's narrower, or narrowing, more slick, slippery, has a downward slope. You could maybe put in some kind of, in a sense, environmental trap where you slip and you go sliding down this thing. It's a little bit of a bit brings in that kind of water tube slide feature, and that goes, if you just follow that to the end, you get dumped into a vertical chamber. So it's going to be something that was dug vertically, and that's also a nest of piercers. So you can imagine if you fall down this, you slip in that tunnelway, you slide down, you fail your save, slide down, you fall into that vertical chamber, and then on top of you drop some piercers. Super nasty. Sounds like something that would have been created by some horrible intelligence. In this case, it's just us. But it's cool. Also off the main tunnelway, we have a mining chamber that was carved into a chapel that the humans, it was, I guess, what's the word I want to, sanctified into the human god of rock, maybe underworld. We'll have to figure out who that is. But as they got a protection, and in there, if you can read some of the symbology in there, it'll give you a key for signs that people carved to each other, because they were, when they were, forcibly used to mine this thing out. We have some other mining chambers we'll run across. These are all spreading out, fingers off of the main, branches off of the main tunnelway. At the main tunnelway is the trunk branches. We have mining chamber is going to be empty. It's going to have some, just maybe they threw garbage in there. It could also be where they put some of their waste, though I think we established that the piercer nest is probably where they put their poopings and things when they had to poop on the job. Another mining chamber that's a spider den, giant spiders live there. We have another vertical chamber that is maybe doesn't have a creature in it, but is also gives access to lower levels. So I think we thought maybe either in the main pit or something else, maybe ropers might be here. I'll just put them in parenthetically. That will give access to another part of the mine. that would be our level 2, and we would get to that. Let's see, we have one mining chamber off of the miner tunnelway, also has trace of old fire pits. Maybe this is where they ate. Could be more things carved in there. Then we have another mining chamber that has a pool of liquid. What that is yet, we don't know. Whether it's one of those magical fountain type pools, whether it's a water filled quarry pit, or just a tube they did that filled with water. Maybe it leads to another area. Maybe it leads to a layer of bullywugs. Who knows? Brian Smith says maybe some fungi folk who fish the pits. Yeah, could be. Uh, Lots of things. Brian Smith says, what's next on the agenda? Okay, so I'm going to put a pin in this and say that, you know, we did, we did, I'm not, I can't say we completed the challenge because there's a lot more work there, but we definitely got a level. I think in about an hour, we got a rough idea of a dungeon level, which I think is pretty good for an hour. And I think if we were to keep going, I imagine that level 2 would take us less time, and level 3 would probably take us a little bit less time, and then we'd just be coming back. And obviously, I say it like it's instant, but of course it's not. Fleshing out the features, maybe drawing the specific map. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. Goodbye, you. In terms of what's next week is town features. And I will, on my forums, I will post these details that we came up with. If you're a patron or channel member, you have access to this page itself, so you can come in and check out all the madness at your own leisure. At some point, I'm going to try to put all this stuff together into something, but that'll be at the end of all of this. But I hope that this, hopefully, if you're doing your own Gygax challenge, or if you're wondering about getting into it, I hope that maybe this shows one way of just running through. You're kind of seeing, granted, you're not seeing the end effect of it yet, but I think a good bit of going from, hey, we just have this basic idea of what this was, to just running some questions over, bouncing it. I'm lucky enough to have folks in here in the chat with me that I can bounce ideas off of, but you can pretty much do this yourself. And we kind of came up with, I think, a pretty neat level. I mean, that kind of nasty, I don't want to call it a trap, but kind of a trap of that miner tunnelway. That's, if you might fall and slide into a piercer nest, is pretty nasty, but I think fun, and I think it makes sense. It's kind of fitting into everything that we've talked about. So there you have it. It's funny. This one I didn't go through a bunch of the things. We went through and kind of got some of the monsters and special features. I didn't roll up the levels because I wanted to use that other guide just to kind of, because again, some of it is it just in terms of doing it on stream, trying to make it a little bit faster, because I'm trying to do one stream per one challenge, so I do get kind of limited. So I am, in this one in particular, I feel some of that compression, whereas I feel like, hey, I didn't get a whole dungeon or even get 3 levels, I just got 1, and I didn't even really get the full 1 level dungeon, I just kind of got a little bit of it, or just the overview of it. But I feel like this is where the time constraints, and if I was doing a 5-hour stream, then we could really get in the weeds and do all of it. But we'll just have to come back. But I hope it kind of lays out a little bit of, hey, this is how we're doing it. Have an idea. I think you can leave this stream having a fairly good idea, image in your mind of what this level looks like, how we're doing it. So I think I feel good about that. Even if you're not walking out of here with some kind of Dyson Logos quality map with keyed encounters or everything. I think we could see the roadmap of now getting from what we did come up with to getting there. But I got to run. Apologies again for the audio weirdness at the front. Devious Dungeon Pace says maybe there are mutated descendants of the miners like Morlocks. Yeah, maybe that could be on another. That would be something when we're theming this out, right? This level was treacherous terrain, which I think we did a pretty good job with. With that theme, there's definitely a lot of treacherous kind of terrain here. I think we get down to another lower level. Yeah, maybe there are some humans that also feast on these same wyverns, or try to, that kind of stayed down here and just kind of kept themselves secret and in a sense safe, but maybe devolved into some kind of Morlocks. I'll put it on the list. But that's all I got, folks. If you could give it a thumbs up on your way out, if you haven't already, that would be awesome. Otherwise, if you're not subscribed, if you feel like subscribing, that would also be awesome. Otherwise, apologies for, I'm hoping the audio isn't too terrible, because it's just couldn't get myself set up. I promise, because I'm here in the country for a few days, I promise that the following streams I will have that fixed. So this should only happen today and not later on. So I have famous last words, but we do what we can. All right, folks. I gotta get going. I'm sure you guys do too. Have a great rest of your day, night, whenever you end up watching or listening to this. Game on, and I'll talk to you later. Bye, everybody.